An old debate has been reignited in Mumbai: development versus environmental conservation. This time over the proposed bullet train project between Ahmedabad and Mumbai. Now, the National High Speed Rail Corporation has sought permission to cut around 22,000 mangrove trees for the rail line. And today, the Bombay High Court granted that permission. The trees will be cut in districts of Mumbai, Thane and Palghar. The court said the decision was taken in public interest. However, there are some strict conditions that have been imposed. Number one, all terms and conditions set out in the approvals must be strictly followed. And number two, the rail corporation must plant 2.5 lakh saplings to make up for the deforestation. Now, the court has been hearing this matter since 2020. Both the union government, the state environment ministry and the conservation groups wanted to reduce the number of trees being cut. So the rail corporation came back with a new offer. Their initial plan was to cut 53,000 mangrove trees, but their revised plan was to cut 22,000. They also agreed to change the location and the alignment of certain stations so that fewer trees will have to be cut. Despite that, the NGOs raised two major objections. One, explosives cannot be used for construction activities in restricted areas. And two, no study was conducted to gauge the survival rate of these new saplings. What if they die within days of being planted? That would defeat the whole point of this exercise. In this case, the High Court sided with the Railway Corporation. They say the bullet train project is in public interest. The decision comes a week after the Supreme Court permitted the Mumbai Metro Authority to cut 84 trees in the RA forest. Remember, the construction of a metro shed in RA has been a flashpoint between the Eknath Shinde government and the opposition. The previous government under Uddhav Thackeray had stopped the felling of trees. But that decision was reversed immediately once Eknath Shinde took over. I know that projects like bullet trains and metros are important for our cities, for every city, especially for one as congested as Mumbai. The question is, how do you strike a balance? Is a bullet train worth 22,000 mangrove trees, or is a metro shed worth dozens of trees in RA? That's a question that needs to be asked. Before I go to my guest, let me first tell you why mangroves are so important for a city like Mumbai. It was originally a cluster of 7 islands, the city. So many parts of Mumbai have actually been reclaimed from the sea, which is why mangroves act as a natural defense. They prevent coastal erosion, they help control flooding, and they also store more carbon than normal forests. That's three major advantages of having mangrove forests. But Mumbai has been consistently destroying these trees for urbanization. From 1991 to 2001, the city lost 40% of its mangroves. That's almost 9,000 acres of trees. Every time the city implements a major infrastructure project, these trees are cut. Mumbai's coastal road was built after clearing mangroves. So is the Navi Mumbai Airport, the Thane-Belapur Road and the Malwani Metro Depot. So this bullet train project is not an exception. Mumbai has consistently put development ahead of conservation, and sometimes with disastrous consequences. Every single research shows that mangroves can control flooding. They can absorb the excess water and reduce waterlogging during the monsoons. In fact, let's forget the monsoons. Looking at the rate of global warming, parts of Mumbai are projected to be underwater by 2050. And if that happens, the city will regret its decision to destroy these mangroves. Let me speak to people who don't just love trees but also are residents of Mumbai, therefore need the convenience of a metro or need the convenience of a coastal road. Asif Bhamla is spokesperson of the BJP. He is joining us on the broadcast. Anurag Naidu is a political analyst. He is with us. And Stalin is Director Vanashakti. He is with us. Stalin, I know that it is important for every citizen to fight for every tree in your city. But there are trees on one side and there are mangrove trees on one side. And there is the bullet train, a train that the politicians are not going to use or the courts are not going to use. It's the people of Mumbai and the people of Ahmedabad who are going to be using this train. So it's really a very difficult choice. What do you make of the Bombay High Court's order today, which has given the permission to fell 22,000 trees? They are saying the project is in public interest. Isn't the project in public interest?
The project is in public interest, no doubt. Isn't conservation in public interest? Or is it the same? Now, with all respect to the judiciary, let me tell the viewers that getting permissions for destruction of the environment is easier and it's the norm now. Now, you mentioned in your introduction that about 2.5 lakh saplings are going to be planted. Mangroves grow naturally where nature decides they have to be grown. And let me inform you and the viewers that there is no space left for mangrove plantation in Maharashtra. There is no space. So mangroves are not terrestrial vegetation which you can take and plant somewhere else. We need to understand that mangroves are our front line of defense. They are an ecosystem by itself. When it is raining, you don't punch holes in your umbrella and say, no, I'll use the other side of the umbrella, so I'll be dry. It doesn't work that way. Sooner or later, you're going to get wet. Now, this entire decision of allowing this destruction, I would say it reeks of certain insensitivity and also the lack of connect. Where is the science behind it? And is it necessary? Every time we hear this debate or this rhetoric from the government side that this is of public interest, public importance, let us go back and see on YouTube. You'll find that the Prime Minister himself has said that nobody is going to use the bullet train. That is just for show off. We need to make it. Let us not go into that for the time being. Now we need to understand that when you talk of sustainable development, where does the environment come in? How have you learned to sustain? Couldn't this road or this part of the project have gone elevated by saving all the mangroves? You can execute every project you want to, but if you spend money for conserving alongside, and that commitment is not coming from the project proponents. And what is disturbing is that every time the project proponents, lawyers come and give the rhetoric and the judiciary buys it. Nobody is asking questions. Now, if they had told the court that there is no space for the saplings, what would have they done? Take the example which you took now of the Navi Mumbai airport. Do you know that as mangroves lost in the Navi Mumbai airport have not been compensated? And the trade-off is that they will plant some saplings on the forests of Raigad on the mountains. Now, what kind of trade-off are we talking about? This kind of lack of science, lack of insensitivity, and lack of willingness to spend money to do your projects alongside conservation is the problem, and that needs to be addressed. No disrespect meant to the judiciary, but the facts are out for everyone to see.
Okay, so let me get the BJP spokesperson in. Asif Bhamla, respond to what Stalin is saying, that development is all fine, we need it, but you need development to go along with conservation. And in this case, the conservation has been pushed off this cliff. There is a choice to be made, and the choice has been made.
I certainly endorse a lot of areas of discussion with Stalin, because I myself I represent a very known foundation which works with the United Nations Environment Program. And if you ask me, I have, you can check the kind of work we've done on conservation of mangroves and the tree plantations and various other programs with regards to sustainability. In fact, on World Environment Day, we have a very huge awareness program that's global. So I, as an environmentalist, endorse what my friend Stalin said, because I certainly know that mangroves play a very critical role, a very crucial role in preventing flooding in the low-lying areas. Also, they play a very important role in the mitigation emissions, and of course they absorb 5 times more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, you see. So I am certainly in sync with what my friend Stalin says. But now, as a government, as an administration, as a representative of a political party here, which is of course in the government here, this project has been completed. And if you see, there are various sections that have been, have been broken off. There have been a lot of work. That the entire infrastructure is contributing so much to the pollution level that neither are we making this bullet train from Mumbai to Mumbai-Ahmedabad, nor is that destruction that has been created with regards to infrastructure from the areas that is Palghar, Thane and Mumbai.
So, Asif
that also
Bhamla,
is intact as it is.
then the
That
government should
results
simply
into
scrap the project.
Hazardous traffic
Mr.
position. Now, let me
Bhamla,
complete this.
with
No,
what you're
no,
telling me, with what you're telling me, the government should simply scrap the project. You're telling me it's neither here, neither there. You're telling me it is causing pollution. You're telling me that you're very upset with the fact that mangrove trees are being, struck down. If that is the case, scrap the project.
You see, as I said, environment is the most significant thing, and of course not at the cost of infrastructure. But if you see all the global countries, all the successful metro cities, especially Mumbai is the commercial capital of the country. Now, if we don't have an infrastructure, now this infrastructure has been a fast-track infrastructure, which will obviously reduce the carbon emissions too. You're curating a journey of 6.5 hours to 2.5 hours. Is that not beneficial in terms of carbon emissions reservoirs? So now that is one aspect of it. We have got a loan at a very, very at a no interest rate, which so there is a lot of trade between Ahmedabad
Okay,
and
Stalin,
Mumbai.
would you want to respond to
There is a lot
that?
of commuting. So
I
think
would you want to
that as an
respond to what
infrastructure,
Mr. Bhamla is saying? Mr. Bhamla is saying, look at the number, look at the amount of carbon footprint we are cutting down. If we are just a minute, if we are curating a journey of Mr. Bhamla, I've heard you.
10 seconds.
Mr. Bhamla, I've heard you. Just let Stalin respond to what you're saying. Just a minute.
No,
I've heard you, but the only thing that I could understand that you're saying right now, because you're not saying this or that, you're not taking a stand, and you're telling me that look at the amount of carbon footprint that gets cut if this bullet train actually gets built between Mumbai and Ahmedabad. Right? That is what you're saying. That a journey of 6 hours is being curated into a journey of 2 hours. Stalin, please respond. Please respond.
I'm pleasantly surprised
Okay, Mr. Bhamla, wait. Stalin, respond to that.
I'm very pleasantly surprised by Mr. Asif's arguments, and I'm thankful for him to saying the facts. Why are we proceeding on the notion that this project has to be done at the cost of the mangroves? Why not alongside the mangroves? That's my question. We can save those mangroves. We don't have to cut them. We can do it. Like I said, every project in the mangroves can go elevated. It is not necessary to go bulldoze them every time. And we are talking of projects of public importance. Every project is of public importance. And why isn't, again, my question is, isn't conservation of public importance? You mentioned in the beginning of your show that 40% of we lost our mangroves. Today, there is no space for mangroves to grow. You cannot grow those mangroves. So the point is not stopping the project. The point is, how are you compensating this? How are you offsetting it? You cannot trade tigers for donkeys. That cannot happen. So everything has its own weight, its space, its location, all decided by nature. Don't tamper with mangrove ecosystem. Then I thank Mr. Asif for his honesty. He agreed that it can be done and the government needs to revisit that. And the courts have not been informed that there is no space for mangroves, and 2.5 lakh saplings cannot be planted. There is no space for it. This is only rhetoric. And the government or the project proponent lawyers get away by making these false tall statements. And this is very disturbing for us.
Anurag Naidu, of course, probably the bullet train is in public interest, as the High Court says. But then Stalin is right when he says that so is conservation, so is protecting these mangroves. जो आप आज काटोगे, you can never grow those mangroves again, because A, there is no space, and B, these 2.5 lakh trees that you're talking about, there is simply no space in Mumbai to grow these trees.
Is that question to me, Shreya?
Yeah, Anurag, that was for you.
Is that to me, Shreya?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Yeah, so let me come in here. I mean, I've heard both the gentlemen telling, and I know Mr. Stalin has been absolutely sentimental and emotional about the mangroves, and they've given all the lectures about mangroves, all taken, and all we respect that. But, you know, coming from a background of technologists, having traveled across the world, I would tell Mr. Stalin that if you see the success model, and I want to particularly pinpoint about bullet train. I don't want to generalize like Mr. Stalin has done. I don't want to generalize an RA or something else, but I'm specifically talking about bullet train. The major problem that I see with Bombay is concentrated urbanization that has to be decluttered. And if you see the story of Japan, and I've widely traveled across the world with an experience telling you, lots of people have relocated out of Tokyo. They stay in cities like Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They travel every day from Kyoto and Osaka. That's the kind of success model, and that's the power of bullet train and the high-speed transportation that it can bring in. So if you really want to trade off between decluttering the urbanization, which is very concentrated, which amounts to a lot of pollution in the cities like Bombay, in fact, in a city like Bangalore as well, that needs to be the focus point. Of course, we are all sympathetic, and that's why the court said the 5 times of the mangrove should be planted. And if there is no space, and if you feel that you have scientifically better evidence to prove that the arguments have failed, you better. I would, with all due support, you go to the court and explain to the right authority. You can challenge the verdict, go to the Supreme Court, and a lot of good lawyers out there, and you please contest that. Nobody's denying that. And if we are really kind of pitching it to say, okay, you made a narrative where it said Prime Minister Modi, yes, nobody will use the bullet train. That is absolutely rubbish. And I would say, let's not make such kind of argument, because the first project as a pilot will always be 10x or 20x expensive. And then if you don't take this first step, you're never going to leap into this, orbit of high-speed transportation. You see China. China started way after Japan launched bullet train, but the largest network of bullet train in the world is China. So that's the kind of success model they've demonstrated. So we need to go out of this closed orbit. You might be a PhD or a doctorate about the mangrove, write articles, write published papers, fight for it by all means. But let's not generalize and put narratives and try to stop and try to create a negative sentiment about, what it's doing is ultimately some people, when they're putting false narratives, it gives space to the opposition. Then there is hangama, and then there is public, pressure, and then the project goes for a toss. And investors from Japan or any other place from the world, they feel it is not a healthy place to come with innovative ideas. And this is for us. All I'm saying, it is for us, which no economy as such or no investment as such. I don't want to get into that. But all I want is Bombay's concentrated urbanization should be decluttered as early as possible. And that's where I think the city can come to a better shape. And
so how will one bullet train, 1 minute, Anurag, how will one bullet train do that? Now you're giving me the example of Japan, so I'm going to quote back the example of Japan to you. You're telling me that people from Tokyo, 1 minute, Tokyo, moved out to places like Kyoto and Hiroshima, etc., so that they can, commute to work every day to Tokyo taking these bullet trains. Are you seriously telling me that people in Mumbai, in hordes, in lakhs, will migrate to Ahmedabad and travel from work or to work from there to Mumbai? Ye kya bol rahe ho? Anurag, how does it simply doesn't make sense.
I think, Shreya, with all due respect, I think with all due respect, that's why I said you please read the model. I say it on national television with all the responsibility. See the model of Japan and China also. It all starts with the first project is going to be expensive. But if you don't take that first step, you will never end up into the high speed. It is not just one train. Remember, when the corridor gets developed, it might be 8 or 9 trains a day. And that's where the change comes. That's where the ticket prices come down. And mark my word, I can record this video for the next 10 years. Mark my word, it will be the most affordable transport solutions. Now look at the airports. They're flooded with people. People are spending. India's economy is growing. People are getting rich. So, going 10 years down the line, you will say, yes, it was a strategic decision. And this 20,000 trees, I am telling you on record, is going to be a blessing with all due respect, right? All due respect. But this 20,000 trees sacrifice is going to pay off big time in the development, not only development of India, but better balancing of, the population in India. We really need to decongest our cities, not only Bombay, every other city for that matter.
Stalin?
Can I respond?
Stalin?
Yeah, Mr. Anurag.
It's a sacrifice that needs to be made.
Yeah,
yes.
no.
It's a sacrifice that needs to be made, he says.
I guess he missed whatever I've said. I've never said a word against the project. I said, please go ahead and make it. Okay, so let's not get it done. Let's not bracket what I said. Yes, that video is there on YouTube. It's not my saying. I don't make allegations and open-ended statements. You can go and check it on YouTube. He has said categorically कि उसमें कोई बैठने वाला नहीं है, लेकिन दिखाने के लिए बनाना पड़ता है. Let us not go into that debate. Yeah, you can check it. If you want, I'll send it to you. Now, second part is that where do you get the notion that we are opposing the project? Why are we being bracketed like that? We said do the project. We are telling you we are supporting the project, but go elevated. Why the hell do you have to cut the trees is what the question is. Nobody is saying no to the project.
Mr. Stalin, you may not oppose, but the opposition will take this.
I'm sure
the opposition will take this too.
Mr. Stalin, my request is don't generalize. Mr. Stalin, my request is don't generalize.
Just a minute.
Mr. Stalin, Mr. Stalin,
Gentlemen, if you all speak over each other, I'll not be able to hear you. Just a minute. Just a minute. Anurag, make your point in 10 seconds. I'll come to Stalin and then I'll go to Asif. So, gentlemen, just a minute. Don't speak over each other. Anurag, quickly make your point.
Yeah, my whole request is, Mr. Stalin, don't generalize. If you have great ideas, we all support you. But if you're saying it is not very simple that you have an elevated corridor, it is elevated. By all means, it is. But if you got to have a pillar on the floor, you've got to have a pillar. Then you need to remove a tree and you need to clear it and you need to dig it through. So if you have to construct, you need to get the mangroves out. You cannot have an imaginary pillar which is running onto the surface. Come on. So if you got to have pillars, you need to remove some trees. It's basic. Come on.
So what is your final this thing? What is the cost of that 20,000 mangroves? They are just to be wished away and said, okay, never mind, it's gone. Let's have a mourning ceremony and let's move on. What is your value? What is the value? What is the value you are putting on the ecosystem services of 20,000 mangroves? Do you have a figure for it? You have all the figures for the project. When are you going to put a price to the ecological services? When will that happen? Or is it not on your agenda?
My whole answer was when you decongest the urban cities, when you bring down the carbon footprint, that's where you get an answer.
That is not going to happen. I'm already not decongest Mumbai. Mumbai people will not leave Mumbai for everything in this world. Mumbai will remain congested because it is the magnet.
That's your perception. You are no expert. You are no urban expert to say that.
I am born here and lived here.
You are no urban plan. Sir, you have no urban planning. You are not an urban planning expert.
What you are
providing is
fantastic. It's a fantastic mode of transport. It may be it is a great infrastructural achievement, yes. But to give the argument that people will leave Mumbai and go to Ahmedabad, come on now. Mumbai is not so weak, or it's not such
Mr. Stalin, you might be staying. You answer me one question. How many people from Bombay, they commute every day from Pune and Karjat? You give me an answer. Shall I tell you the number? You want to know the number? You know how many people they do up and down from Pune? That means Bombay needs to declutter, decongest. And I'm not saying, if you're saying bullet train, as if you're talking that bullet train is for fashion, fancy, or you have high-speed train, go and take selfies. No, it's not like that. Come on, sir. Then you need to know the story of bullet train.
I'm not only saying bullet train as a jargon. I asked you very simply, what is the cost or ecosystem service value you are putting for the mangroves? You put a value to the tree and the ecosystem services and go on. Remove everything, but be honest to admit it.
I am ready to study. I am ready to challenge you on that, on the science and the calculations which is made on the reducing the carbon footprint, the ecological effect that carbon emission is going to have. Then we can definitely, and the waste that we generate.
If according to you, infrastructure is everything, let's clear all our forests, all our jungles, all our mangroves, and we will sequester carbon using your metro bogies and say that we've done a great job with the earth.
Sir, you may be emotional. You're trying to generalize.
No, I'm not emotional. I'm asking a blunt question. Come out with the facts. Tell me what is the cost you have put on the ecosystem services of mangroves. Where is the answer? You haven't answered it.
The facts have been presented in the court, and that's why there's a judgment on the court.
You have to be emotional about your environment. What is the other choice?
Can I come in?
Sorry.
What is the other choice? You have to be emotional about your environment. If you are not emotional about your environment, who will be?
No, he's saying calculation.
This is too great a sacrifice to make. Of course. The facts have been put in the court, and look what the court has been told. But just a minute. Yes, you can, sir. Just a minute. But look at what the courts have been told. The courts have been told that 2.5 lakh saplings will be planted somewhere to compensate for these 20,000 trees that are going to be cut. What is the point of planting them somewhere in Raipur? Because in Bombay, there is no place. So essentially, what you have lost forever. You're never getting it back. Asif, I have exactly 10 seconds, but go ahead. I'm fairly certain that, this order by the Bombay High Court is going to be challenged in the Supreme Court. But go ahead.
No, I certainly agree I certainly agree, Stalin. You may go on to disagree with this, but the opposition gets a lot of fodder, you see, for projects like this, which have been approved by our government. Mr. Devendra Fadnavis ji has walked the extra mile to ensure that all permissions come in a fast track. Even that was the first ever major decision, a prestigious decision, which the Honorable Chief Minister and Devendra ji took. And now let me tell you, decongesting the urban city is only the way out, and concentrated urbanization, you see, is very, very, you have to, get rid of this, because right now we may not agree with this, but 10 years from down the line, we will agree that what Anurag ji had discussed was right, and certainly we need a bullet train in larger interest of commuting, and again the court has laid certain guidelines. They've made a lot of changes. They've changed the locations. They have even reduced the number of mangroves that were originally supposed to be cut for 50,000. Now they've reduced to 20,000. So and even the stations.
Okay, I want a response to that from Stalin.
The locations as well to the comfort and convenience.
You bring up a good point, Asif.
Ecological balance is not disturbed.
You bring a good point, Asif. Stalin, I have 10 seconds, but respond to that. That the number of trees that were originally planned to be cut was some 50,000. That has been brought down to 22,000. And there is some alignment that has been changed to ensure that the number of trees that needed to be cut, that goes down. So there is an attempt to try and save whatever little can be saved.
See, I'm saying that we are okay. I would, at least on a personal level or as an environmental, I'm saying, okay, fine. But where is the two things which I asked for? Where is the space to plant this? You went and told the court. I know for sure because I'm on the ground. I know the facts on the ground. There is no space left. And you cannot, if it's cold in Mumbai, your sweater cannot be in Delhi. You have to have it where it is supposed to be. The mangroves of Mumbai have to be in Mumbai, and if there's no space for it to plant in Mumbai, then it cannot be removed. You have to find mitigation measures. This is very typical of project proponents. They come up with a big figure, and then after coming to court, say, okay, we are taking a backtrack. Now we'll redo it, and then everyone goes home happy that okay, something has come down. The figures have come down. Nobody is opposing the project. I am still saying they should have a proper discussion with the environmentalists and the scientific community. And these are matters of science. And we are not in a stage where we can continue to ignore our natural shields. We are talking of fighting climate change, and we cannot remove our shields and go on saying that, no, we'll do something else. We'll manage somehow. This approach has to change. That is my humble request to all project proponents, that please find a way to develop alongside conservation and not at the cost of it. And that needs to be worked on.
Okay. We'll leave it there. Stalin, thank you very much for joining us. Anurag Naidu, good to have you on the show. And Asif Bhamla, good to have you on the show as well. It's a debate that has been ongoing for the last 50, 60 years. Conservation versus development. The point is both need to go hand in hand. It's not always possible. We'll slip into a break. There's more news coming up on the other side. Do stay with us.
Powered by ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India Limited. Smarter steels, brighter